This is We All Be, news-free Dixie for the 21st century. See how it works? Somewhere. Can you dig it?
South. I don't think people realize that in 1955, she was also trying to produce a film about her son's case. She was trying to bring up even more awareness by using the powerful medium of filmmaking to get this story out there. So to be here today after the journey that I've had over the years is truly be able to be here with you today. So thank you. I didn't know that 33-year-old Emmett Till grabbed it. And so to sit down and have them to write this, I only had stories that she used to tell me when she was with us, spend many hours with her. Of course, she was featured in my documentary, The Untold Story of Emmett Till, that came out in 2005 in theaters. But I had to gather all these materials and to get in the head of a 33-year-old black woman of that day. And I have to drill 33 years old in, because I don't think people really understand how young she was and how she had to make these decisions quickly. Like, for instance, between the death of Emmett Till and the trial, all this happens within a month span. We can't get parking tickets fixed within a month. So Mother Mobley became an unintentional activist in the fight for her sons. In terms of her son getting justice. So to have to make these decisions, these courageous decisions, she had to battle all the isms of that day. And that's what makes her so powerful and courageous. And so that was a difficult thing, trying to get into this 33-year-old woman's head. The second thing was basically resurrecting my mentor and telling the story. You know, Mother Mobley used to always sit me down and we would talk for hours. And not even about Till. We just talk about life things. And the way she was with me, she treated me in many ways like an adopted son. So we were extremely close. And I had never had anyone in my life like that, because, and I say this because when she spoke, her words moved your soul. I've never had anyone who could speak to me where I can feel her words. And that was the relationship we had. And I was able to work with her for 8.5 years, and she always used to say to me, Keith, you must continuously tell Emmett's story until man's consciousness is risen, because only then there will be justice for Emmett Till. So in many ways, those words were prophetic. I was young. I was in my early 20s. I'm trying to find my way in life, and I had this great woman in my life who's giving me some sort of direction and inspiration. And for her to say those words to me for years and years and years, I would wonder what she meant by that. But it's only in the past decade that I realized how prophetic those words are. And I say that because what she was trying to tell us is no matter what type of justice you're going to get for Emmett, courtroom justice or not, they're going to still be Emmett Tills of today. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. The Emmett Tills of today, and we have to understand that there's no disconnect from what we're seeing on the streets of America when we're losing black and brown people at the hands of police, or even racist, white supremacists. Emmett Till's murder And the deaths that we're seeing right now are one and the same. And so until we understand this, I do not believe that we will actually see change in this country when it comes to racial progression, because racial progression has only happened through the blood and the death of the black body. And until we realize that, we're going to continue to repeat this history.
Sounds good.
There was a black paper called the Memphis World. And as an 11-year-old, in that paper they had pictures of Emmett Till's battered body. And as an 11-year-old in Memphis, even though Mississippi is another state, it was very shattering. It was very scary, because we actually lived in those times where when a black young man was arrested, they tortured them by pulling their nails out and doing things to their sexual parts and to torture them, to make them answer to crimes that they did not do. Your movie is very factual, and I loved it.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Brother Keith, it's an honor, man. You know, it was like 10 years ago, I was in your place up in New York City, kicking it with you, and now it's 10 years later, you deliver the goods. 30-year journey, the best came and it's still gonna come, and I wanna thank you for creating this marvelous love letter to Miss Mamie Till Bradley Mobley. There's a lot of last names there. You did an awesome job. You did her proud. I know her hand was on this project. And also, I wish Brother Alvin Sykes was here to enjoy this as well. You know, we lost him last year on his way to one of Emmett Till's cousins' things, and he, you know, unfortunate. But it's a couple of things I want to get, like, God, it's a couple of things. Like, it's like Pandora's box. I had ran into one of Emmett Till's cousins at a book sign a couple weeks ago, Sister Sheila Chamberlain.
Yes.
She's in the Air Force, Military Air Force Hall of Fame. Very opinionated.
Tuskegee.
Tuskegee Airman, but she in the Air Force too. Like, she in the Hall of Fame for the Air Force. I mean, she told me to Google her, so I just Googled her, and she's very impressive.
Yeah.
But my thing is this: I'm concerned. Could we do something to get a pardon, a posthumous pardon for Louis Till, Emmett's father, and his co-defendant Fred McMurray, because they was railroaded. We lost Emmett's father when he was only 23 years young, and he died under very questionable circumstances in a kangaroo court during World War II across overseas. And also, your take also on with Carolyn Brown, you actually make sure she was at the scene of the crime, and you put it in there as well. So what should be done by Carolyn Brown Dunham, the last major player of that? Because I think it's interesting, because also we talk about critical race theory. We got to talk about the tragedies, but also the triumphs, because what people don't know, the year before in Mississippi in Holmes County, you had a brother, World War II veteran named Eddie Knoll, who killed 3 white men the second weekend of 1954, including a sheriff deputy, one of the largest manhunts in Mississippi history, survived the ice storm, was not lynched, did not go to trial, and lived to be an old man. Then you had a couple years before that the Attala County massacre, where Oprah Winfrey was born, Attala County. Mm-hmm. We had a black family nearly massacred, and the patriarch lived long enough to testify against the white man who tried to kill his whole family. And you had 2 white men sentenced to life in prison and one given 10 years. This happened in 1950 Mississippi. Other one happened in 1954 Mississippi. So we got to tell all of the stuff as well, make a balance. And also the Houston Race Massacre, you know, the brothers in the 24th Infantry, they're finally getting their recognition as well too. So let's talk about, you know, the exoneration and also the Carolyn Brown thing. Thank you.
I have long-winded friends too. No, Brother Ron, I thank you, man, for being a part of this journey with me. Brother Ron has his own podcast series, so we've been talking for years about cases, and he knows me extremely well. In terms of Emmett's father, we didn't discuss that, tackle that in the film, because we just wanted to cover 1955, the trial, the murder trial. But there's a history here with Louis Till, which is the LT on Emmett's ring that was mentioned. And of course, It was said that Lewis Till, on my birthday, July 2nd, 1945, Lewis Till was put to death by hanging for allegedly raping 3 Italian women and killing 2 of them. And for the longest time, we were trying to figure out what transpired at the trial, when he was put to death. But it was only a few books that covered this, maybe. There's a book that came out that it was the first book that only had Lewis Till's name in, that talked about Lewis Till. And it was a book called The Interpreter by, I can't remember her name, but the last name is Kaplan. But to make a long story short, what we discovered that there's this unethical practice that was happening in 1945 with black soldiers who were in war. And what would happen is, on a number of occasions, white women would go to black barracks and they would blame them for crimes that they did not commit. And they were in turn would be, of course, taken out and charged and put to death by hanging. The irony of Emmett Till's father's tragedy, injustice that befell him, is that he was put to death by General Dwight Eisenhower at that time, who would later become president during Till's day, Emmett's murder. In 1955, he became president and doesn't answer Mother Mobley's request that the federal government come in to intervene. And so there's a lot more I can say about that, but there's books about that. So we're gonna end that here. And then to answer your last question, which is important. Yeah. This is an important question. And this is probably the pink elephant in the room. What should be done to Carolyn Bryant Donald? Right. All right? I'm just saying, this is what everyone is wondering. Well, I was part of the search team that found the warrant they had out for Carolyn Bryant's arrest, which was never served. And what I found was, through my research, the reason why it was never served, the authorities said she was a young mother with kids to take care of. That's exactly. That was the reason why they never served the warrant. So we ended up finding this warrant a few months ago, and it's a 67-year-old warrant that was never served, but it was an active warrant. So the DA decides, after the federal government backed away and said they couldn't do anything else because they didn't have jurisdiction, the DA decides that he wasn't going to do anything as well, but all of a sudden he has this secret grand jury. And of course the decision was made that they would pass a no true, the jury passed a no true bill. So, okay, where I'm getting at is, this is not over with yet. I've been able to get the case reopened 3 times now. And this is going to be a continuous fight, because this is something that Mother Mobley wanted, and this is something that the family wants. They want to make sure that justice is done. And I know people want to say, Carolyn Bryant is an old woman, she's 87 years old, what does it matter? Well, if we could go after Nazi war criminals,
That's right.
and are 101 years old,
That's right.
and we can extradite them and have them go overseas to Germany and be held and brought to justice, and then be charged for 5 years. If we can see this happen in Germany, is what I'm saying, with Nazi war criminals, we certainly should be able to do that in this country when it comes to civil rights war criminals.
That's right.
And I know people also think that sometimes old people, elderly, let me respectfully say this, sometimes these people who commit these awful crimes have a come to Jesus moment. Everybody says that. And it's worrisome to me, because I worked on many civil rights cold cases throughout the years. That is not our reality. Sometimes people are just old and evil, and they die that way.
That's right.
And so we have to stop thinking that people are have this certain faith that's gonna make things, better by just giving us a confession. So we're gonna continue to fight for justice for Emmett Till. We ask you to support our endeavor as well. We're gonna continue to make sure that everyone who was involved with the kidnapping and murder of Emmett Till is held accountable for their actions. There's so much more I can say, but I don't want to take up this time because we do have a special guest that I.
I wanted this young man.
Yes.
He's been patiently waiting.
And this is a special guest for myself, and I'm so happy that he's here. This is Mr. Herman Johnson Sr., who was a close friend to Dr. T.R. Howard.
Oh, wow.
He's with us today.
Excellent.
So I'm glad you're here, sir.
Yes, sir.
Taking a trip. We're so happy you're taking this trip to be with us. And Mr. Johnson, thank you as well for being here.
Thank you so very much for the opportunity to see this movie. I think about, let me turn around to the audience and talk to everyone. But the important thing is keeping the story alive. Seeing this movie, and there was another one out we had connection with people who made the movie of Emmett Till. But the Emmett Till movie is a spirit that was put in the ground, but is still fighting to get out. And it's being told in other ways, other than what you saw. But this was an awesome movie here tonight, awesome. But I'm sure there were other movies about this that's going to people. But let me get to what I really wanted to say. Is that the movie is based on the fact that it was kept I'm not saying in the ground, but it was kept like what the people are now trying to prevent history from being told and put in the schools so you won't read about it. This was something that was supposed to, Emmett Till was supposed to be put in the river and never heard about. Now, if it had not been, and I won't say my boss man, but Dr. T.R. Howard, who was a person that was, to me, was responsible for even anybody ever hearing about Emmett Till. Right. And the reason I'm saying that, there was a little talked about him in the movie, but the fact that he made it known throughout the world about what they had done to this boy from Chicago that they put in the river. Now, saying that, not only that, when he came to when the hearing was, it wasn't not a lot talked about in the movie about that. And I'm going to sit down in 2 minutes.
No, you go ahead, man. It's history.
It was not too much talked about T.R. Howard in the movie, but he played a great part because he was responsible for Emmett Till being able to come here without being killed somewhere along the way or even getting here.
That's right.
He protected her all the way. She went to his home and he had guards around his house to protect her and protect her going, and the news spoke that followed her all around to the hearing and all of that. It was Dr. T.R. Howard responsible for that. But after they killed him, Till, he was the one that publicized it nationally so everybody would know about it. The other thing that is so important in the Till story is the fact that someone said that let the body be exposed and the world could see her son, how it was, and not made up. Now, some of you might have seen one of the other Emmett Till movies where the Undertaker, the sheriff had told the black Undertaker to put the body in the ground. And he said, okay, and I will. But not too much is said about what happened after that. Somebody with power, had to stop him from putting in, and I won't talk about that because it's told in different ways of how that might have happened or might not have happened.
Right.
It might not have talked about too much. But I'm going to,
Yeah, right.
I'm going to sit down because there's so much I can say about that.
Right.
But this movie was so awesome, and to me it's so important that you keep the story alive. And the fact that the way he was exposed to the people and the way his body looked, the fact that they didn't dress him up and show him in the coffin, that was so important.
That's
and
right.
I think when he put him in the ground, he's still trying to tell the world
That's right.
about how back the people in the state of Mississippi and all around the South. And that's, I know I could be here for a long time.
No, that's all right. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it, man. Just living history, man.